Blog Talk Radio.
Bichamo Afurakanu Afuraitkaitnut Neye Awusida Medinde Ojirafo Kwesi Radnehempata Akan Akwamumai Marukai Tibi Mu Ojirafo. That means greetings to all Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people, meaning Africans, black people. Today is Awusida and Ne Awusidae Sunday, and a specific ancestral Sunday, Awusidae. My name is Ojirafo Kwesi Radnehempata Akan. Ojirafo of the Hoodoo Nation in North America. Yerase, we thank you once again for tuning into the show. We thank Hoodoo Mayn, the purified nation of Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut people in the Western Hemisphere, which is our designation in the ancient language of Kanat and Kemet, Nubian, Egypt, and so forth, as well as the Akan language, Hoodoo Mayn, purified Hoodoo Mayn nation, talking about our collective identity as Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut people in the Western Hemisphere, as well as Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut people worldwide. Yerase for tuning into the show once again. We are opening up the chat room right now, and we're going to reboot that real quick. Make sure it comes up. For those who are new to our broadcast, we typically broadcast 3 times a week on Joda, Benada, Ne Awukuda, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Tonight is a special broadcast, Awusida or Akwesida, which is Sunday. This is a special Akwasidae or Awusidae, which is a special ancestral observance. And we want to get into that. And specifically, not only is it an ancestral observance which takes place every 6th Sunday, every 6th Akwesida or Awusida. In the Akan tradition, many Akan folk have an ancestral observance. And Akwasidae. Adai means a sleeping or a resting period. It also means a ritual period. So we take time out ritually, just like Adai also means to sleep or rest, but it's also dealing with ritual space. So just like you take time out every night for 8 hours, stop your regular activity to go into that state, that Adai state, so you can rejuvenate yourself, replenish your energy, realign yourself spiritually. We also engage that process every 42 days. Every 6th Akwesida or Awusida, every 6th Sunday, there's an Adai celebration, Adai observance, where we take time out from our regular activities. We go into the Adai state, the ritual state. We go into the resting period. We go into the ritual state to connect with the Nananom Nsamanfo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our direct blood circle. We deal with the abosom, the deity, as they're called in the Akan tradition, the forces in nature, the children of Inyamewa and Inyame, the great goddess, the great God, the supreme being, Amenet and Amen and Echikamet and Kana. So we engage that process on a regular basis. This Awusida or Akwesida this Sunday is one of those 6 Sundays, or Awusidae or Akwesidae, can be called both. But it's also the first Akwesida Sunday of our new year of 13,016. And of course, it's the first, it happens that the first Sunday or first Awusida of 13,016 happens to be land on an Akwesidae, and it also happens to land on the Osranebere, which is the red moon, so-called blood moon. So all of these things are coming together all tonight on this day. And it's also time for us to announce our Hoodoo Mayn Festival, our Hoodoo Nation Festival. So we want to get into talking about that tonight. We want to say Yerase to Hoodoo Mayn and the Hoodoo Mayn folk. Hoodoo Mayn, the purified nation of Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut people in the Western Hemisphere, who came out, members of the collective Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut people in the Western Hemisphere. Some of the people came out last weekend for the 3rd day of our Obrajira Nananom Som, the third day of our 7-day New Year celebration, of course, in Awusidae Mayn, in the Awusidae Nation in North America. We celebrate the New Year for 7 days. Our New Year's Day is the first full day of Atem, or Atemet, so-called autumn, the first full day of fall, the harvest time, and also the seeding time, the equinox, and so forth. So our New Year's Day was September 23rd, and that was our first day of 13,016. So we are in 13,016 right now. Of course, we do not track time based on a fictional cartoon character who never existed, of any race or in any form whatsoever. Jesus, Yeshua, Isa, Yeshua ben Pandera, and so forth. That character never existed, was not black, not white, didn't exist in any form, in any way. The same is true of the fictional cartoon character Muhammad, who never existed of any race whatsoever. And the same is true, of course, of all of the biblical characters, Quranic characters, Buddha, Brahmin, and the various others. We detail that information, proving that these characters are fictional and how they were manufactured, what deities from ancient Kemet had their descriptive titles stripped and used and corrupted to add to these fictional cartoon characters. We detail that in our book, Kukutuntun, the Ancestral Jurisdiction. So, of course, we do not track time based on a fictional cartoon character. We track time based on an actual astronomical cycle. The Afuraitkaitnut, the great Afe, the great year, which is a 26,000 plus year cycle. We are in the midst of that 26,000 year cycle. The year is beginning with 13,000. So we just began 13,016. And of course, this is the fourth day of our year, 13,016. This Akwesida, this Awusida, this Sunday is the first Sunday or Awusida of the year, but it also happens to land on Awusidae, and so it's an ancestral observance as well. And then, of course, the Osranebere, the red moon, the full moon, lunar eclipse, and so forth, which is about to begin within the next 20 plus minutes, all falling on this day as well. And this is time to announce, as we said, the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival. This is our first annual observance of our Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival, which will be taking place October 17th in Washington, D.C., from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. all day. We will have vendors, traditional culture, traditional medicine, natural soaps, shea butter, a number of different things, number of different natural handmade products connected to our ancestral culture and so forth. We will be doing a presentation on Hudu, the Akan Ancestral Religion in North America, based on our book, Hudu People, Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut in North America, Akan Custodians of Hudu from ancient Hudu or Ndunu land, ancient Kanit, Dubi. So we're going to do a presentation on that. We'll have a couple more presenters, and we'll have the list. As the list of vendors is growing, you can check our Hoodoo Mayn page on the website. We've created a specific page just for the festival. We've also created a specific Hoodoo Mayn page on Facebook, just specifically for the festival. So you can check that out. We're going to put the links in the chat room, and we want to get into that information. We do want to talk about quickly, for those who are new to the broadcast, we have typically 3 broadcasts on a weekly basis. On Joda, Mondays we have Akanto Nana Som, Ancient Authentic Akan Ancestral Religion. We deal specifically with the Akan expression of Ancestral Religion. Of course, as Awusidae Mayn, Amarukai Tikimu, the Awusidae Nation in North America, the Awusidae are a subgroup of the larger Akan people. The Akan people make up about 45% of the Republic of Ghana and about 42% of Ivory Coast of Cote d'Ivoire. Collectively, there are about 20 plus million Akan people on the continent, one of the largest ethnic groups on the continent, and of course, one of the largest groups from which we were taken during the Mmusuo Kese, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era, and forced into North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, and Europe into enslavement until we freed ourselves. So, of course, there are millions of Akanfo in the Western Hemisphere who have found out who they are ancestrally and who will find out who they are ancestrally. When we talk about Akanfo Nanason, we talk about the migration from ancient Kana, where we originate, which is the title of ancient Nubia. Kan means first or foremost. Kan means to count or to reckon or to calculate. It means that in the language of ancient Atemet and Kanat, it also means that in the Akan language, the tree language of the Akan people, which is directly derived of our ancestral language. One of the titles of ancient Nubia is not only Taseti and so forth and Knesset, but also Kanat or the Kanit land. And the people called the Kan or Kanit people. We migrated from ancient Kanat to the Western Hemisphere after the fall of Kemet, after the invasions and so forth. About 2,000 years ago, some of our people migrated west and reestablished Kanat, ancient Kanat, in the western part of the continent. That's the Empire of Kanat or the Empire of Ghana. About 1,000 years later, some of our people, because of Muslim invasion and a deterioration of the neighborhood in that region of northwest Afuraitkaitnut, we moved further south towards the savanna and forest belt regions, in the regions of today's Cote d'Ivoire and the Republic of Ghana, and reestablished Akana or Akan civilization about 1,000 years ago in the transitional zone between the savanna and the forest belt. A few hundred years later, some of our people were taken from that region, as we said, and forced into the Western Hemisphere during enslavement. We're the same people from ancient Kanat, the western part of the continent, reestablishing Akana civilization, and into the Western Hemisphere, North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, and Europe. Continued our Akan practice. That includes our ancestral religion. In Suriname, the Akan people, for example, call their ancestral religion Winti, which comes from the Akan term Himti, which means to rouse up, to awaken, and so forth, talking about the awakening, the conjuring of the forces of nature and the ancestresses and ancestors. In Jamaica, Obia is a term used to describe the Akan tradition in Jamaica, coming from Obai in the Akan language, talking about the higher spiritual psychic power connected to the forces of nature and the divinities, the ancestresses and ancestors. In the North America, Akan people continued our ancestral religion, and it is called Hudu. Hudu comes from the Akan term Undu, which means medicine, specifically dealing with roots, plants, stalks, trees, and so forth. It also means to conjure. So we use the exact same terms to describe our ancestral religious practices, unbroken for thousands of years. We also show in our book that that term goes to ancient Kanit, Nubian Kemet, meaning the exact same thing. So we're talking about Akanfo Nanasom on Monday night, dealing with the Akan expression of ancestral religion. Number two, on Tuesday night, Benada, Abenada, we have Ojida, which means purification. It also means a celebration of purification. We deal with ancestral religion, Nanasom, in general, across the board, showing texts from ancient Kemet, as well as textual references and ritual practices and so forth, wherever our people exist in the world, wherever we have migrated. We talk about the purification of the culture, purification of the cosmology, purification of the understanding of the philosophy, and what we're engaged in when we engage ritual practice, purification of the truth, because of the lies that have been told, even amongst our people who believe that they know something about the culture but are still infected by white culture, here as well as individuals on the continent who've been initiated and have intergenerational experience with regard to ancestral religious practice, but have been infected by the whites in their offspring, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hebrewism, white culture in general, and those infections show up in their presentation of the culture. So we purify that misinformation. We have intergenerational experience as well, right where we are within our blood circle. So we are not dependent on anyone outside of our blood circles to teach us our culture. It comes directly from our ancestresses and ancestors. Direct. We can learn from our people on the continent, in the Caribbean, different places, but our direct primary instruction comes directly from our blood circle. So we get into that information on Benada or Abenada Tuesday night. On Wednesday night, Awukuda, Akuada, Egua Marketplace, where we showcase Afurakani businesses, organizations, and institutions that are serving the Afuraitkaitnut, or African Black community in a positive capacity, but also maintain their ancestral religious values in the process. We've interviewed a number of individuals. We have published the Okom Economic Development Model, which is a model of economic development rooted in our ancestral religious values. So it is therefore a holistic approach to economic development rooted in our culture. You can download that publication directly from our Okom Economic Development page. We're going to put these links in the website, in the chat room, as a matter of fact. And we're going to put the Hoodoo Mayn one up there first. And when you go to the page, you can download that article, that publication. You can download the 4-part series that we did on that, and 2 other videos as well, where we dissect that model. You can also see the list of businesses, organizations, and institutions we have been supporting as a community. Part of the Okom Economic Development Model is to target one Afuraitkaitnut business, organization, or institution per week for 52 weeks. And we started that process in February, so we are in the midst of that process. And the reason we target one per week is for capital infusion at an optimal level. You starve the beast and feed the prize, which is the strategy that we use. Make an assessment on a weekly basis to determine what funds you would have wasted with the whites and their offspring, and then you starve the beast and feed the prize. Take those funds away from that white beast and reallocate them to the business, organization, or institution of the week. If we take $5 or $10 that we would have wasted at Chipotle or Starbucks and starve that white beast, starve the beast and feed the prize, and we reallocate that $10 to the business, organization, or institution of the week, accessing their products and or services, or making a donation. If 1,000 of our people do that, that's a $10,000 infusion of capital into a Black business, organization, or institution within the course of a week, which will allow them to expand their services, their products, to earn us higher within the community, to keep up with that extra demand, that increase in demand, hire our people can take care of their families while they're serving us at a greater capacity, and so forth. If we do not do that, then by default, we are leaving that $10,000 in the hands of our absolute enemies, the whites and their offspring. We are therefore financing our own oppression. So it behooves us, and it is imperative and incumbent upon us that we starve the beast and feed the prize. So when you go to the Okom Economic Development page, you will see that list of businesses, organizations, and institutions, which is an ever-growing list. You will also see the links to their interviews that they did with us on the show. Sat with us for 2 hours and talked about their business, organization, or institution, how they're serving the community in a positive capacity, and how their ancestral religious values inform their service to us as an Afuraitkaitnut community as a collective. That's on the Okom page. So, as we get into this information, we're going to put a couple of links. And of course, and again, this is a special broadcast, so we don't have to go as long as we normally do. But we're going to put a couple of links here in the chat room. One is an article on the abolisation, the divinity Ajua, as she's called in the Akan tradition, or set in ancient Kemet. And Akan, she's also called Esi, governing Sunday, the female divinity governing Sunday, where she's operating in connection with the sun. Esi, in Coptic, the late Kemet dialect, or set is written Esi. So when we say Esi in the Akan tradition, we are saying the same Coptic dialectical variant of the name Aset, Esi, same divinity, when she's operating in harmony with the sun and operating in connection with Ra'et. In ancient Kemet, she's called Aset, Ra'et, Si. Just as Asar, when he's operating in harmony with Ra, he's called Asar Ra. This is why Asara, or Awusida is connected to Sunday. Sunday, in the Akan tradition, you look at the 7 days of the week. In the Akan tradition, the sun, moon, and planets govern the solar, lunar. They're the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies which govern the 7-day week. The deities, major divinities who animate the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies lend their energy to the day of the week. And when we're born on that day, it's an indication that we were assigned to that divinity pre-incarnation, and therefore they make sure we come out on the day that they govern. Sunday is Awusida or Akwesida. Awusi is the divinity. Awusir in ancient Kemet. Awusi in Akan, which is Osar, of course. Esi is the female divinity. When they're operating through the sun on Sunday in connection with Ra and Ra'et, then they're called Awusi and Esi. When they're operating outside of, not in connection with the sun, Osar and Aset, operating in connection with the moon, are called Ajo and Ajua, and lend their name to Joda, which is Monday, the moon day. Jo in Akan meaning cool, referencing the moon. So Joda is the Da, the day of the Jo, the cool one, which is the moon. Ajo and Ajua is Osar and Aset operating through the moon. So when you look in the Akradin Bosom article that we did on Ajua, you see that we're talking about the moon. And we're talking about how Osar as well as Aset, this article is mainly about Aset, Ajua. We do mention Osar as well because they're connected, of course. And we're talking about that energy that governs the moon. Of course, Ajo and Ajua, you'll see in ancient Kemet, Ucho and Uchuat, which is a title of the moon in ancient Kemet, male and female. So it's directly derived from that. But what we want to focus on, if you get to page 16, and we show a symbol, a red symbol of the Tet symbol, and it looks like an Ankh with the arms folded down. That's its depiction. So we say the Tet symbol is a symbol in Kemet associated with Aset, as stated in the article series entitled Sechima Obrabosom, Menstruation Goddess. We published a 3-part series on Sekhmet or Sechima, the Obrabosom, the menstruation divinity. We're quoting from that particular article in this article. In ancient Kemet and Knesset, so-called Egypt and Nubia, the Abosom deity Aset utilizes the talisman called Tet. It carries her power, called the Senef in Aset, the blood of Aset, and is a protection for the spirit of the individual, so that no other spirits can attack him, her on earth, or in the spirit realm. The Tet is a representation of the uterus, which is the circular loop on the top, vulva and vagina, the lower portion of our set. And you see the folded arms are the lips of the vulva and so forth. The container and channel of her senef, her blood, menstrual as well as that of conception. So when you see that symbol, and it's a sacred symbol, an ancient symbol for our set, it's a symbol of the uterus and the vulva and so forth, carrying the senef in our set, the blood of our set, that sacred blood of menstruation, but also conception is used ritually, is used in a talismanic fashion to wage and wield energy. So let's go a little bit further. If you scroll down, that was page 16. And we can go past this particular section because we were talking about specific etymologies and so forth. All right, if you scroll down to page 19. Yes, and of course this is a 20-page article, but we want to get to this specific portion because we show some images of our set. We show one of the images with her characteristic Aset or Esi thrown on her head, showing that it's her. Then we also show the image of Aset wearing a red dress, and she has the cow's horns on her head, and inside the horns is a red disc. So that's important. So we talk about colors sacred to Aset. And she wears a white dress, she wears a red dress, and then in the third picture, she wears a red and white garment. The colors, as spoken in Akan, Koko, red, Ufuo, white, Bibire, blue, and Tunsum, black. So we say Osset is often depicted in Knesset and Kemet, wearing white, red or white, and red. In Akan culture, Oshira or Oshiru, or white clay powder, is used on individuals who are possessed by the Asunsum, the spirits of the Abosom, or the Nananom Nsamanfo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. In ancient Knesset and Kemet, so-called Nubia and Egypt, there are depictions, usually of women, who have smeared their skin with white or yellow in a ritual context. This is because it is usually women who become possessed by the Asunsum of the Abosom and Nananom Nsamanfo, the deities and spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, during ritual. Just as a woman's body becomes possessed by, becomes the house of a new spirit from the ancestral realm at the time of conception, that's a literal possession, so is a woman's body a natural house for the Abosom and the Nananom Nsamanfo to enter and ritually communicate through. It's a natural house. The red energy manifests the intensity of ritual possession and conception, because possession can also be a conception. As through the normal process of conceiving a child, yes, the sperm and the ovum unite to create that zygote, but then the person becomes possessed by the spirit of the child. The spirit of the child enters the body of the woman. So that's a possession. There's also conception. Red also carries the energy of blood, menstrual, as well as that of conception and birth. The red blood of the woman carries the ovum cell, while the white, quote-unquote, blood of the male, the semen, carries the sperm cell. The union of red and white facilitates the conception of a child. The red and white unite within the female through the birth canal, one of the major reasons why Ajua, Awo, or Set is depicted in red and white. Osset is also depicted with her crown in blue, with a black headdress, or a blue and white headdress. The blue-black waters of the rivers and oceans, the blue-black waters of the day, night, sky, which encapsulate the white or blue bosom moon, are energetically related to the blue-black amniotic waters, including abatum melanin within the womb of the mother. Of course, the sky is blue during the daytime, the sky is black during the nighttime. That's the expansive aspect. When you look in the black substance of space, that's the black body of Amen and Amenet. That is the cosmic, quote-unquote, abatum or melanin. The melanin in our bodies is a portion of that black plasma, that black substance, a portion of the great divinity of Ka and Ka, the black male and female portions of the black substance of space. So when we look upon that black substance during the daytime, it appears blue. When we look upon that substance at nighttime, it appears black. Of course, that is the body of Amen and Amenet. This is, of course, why you see Amen sometimes depicted with black skin. Sometimes you see Amen depicted with blue skin and so forth. But then this even goes further as well. With regard to the waters within the womb, within the dark, the water. So we talked about the blue-black amniotic water. Amniot, the amnion, which is the amenion, amen, the blue and black waters and so forth. The amniotic fluid is the ocean within which the gestating child develops. The mother, bosom moon, nurtures the child within this environment. We show an image of a full moon over the waters of earth, similar to the mother, the moon, nurturing the waters within the environment that the child is developed. Just as the bosom, which is a title of the moon, also called Osranebere, has a measurable effect on the rising and falling of the tides of the ocean on Asase Afura, the earth mother, so does the mother's energy, Ajua, have an effect on the amniotic water. Water is the conductor of electricity, electromagnetic energy. Thus, the mood, emotions, etc. of the mother not only have an effect on the spirit of the child, but directly impact the developing child's physiology through affecting the tide of the amniotic water. So whatever the mother is feeling, of course, that energy is transferred through the amniotic water. Water is a conductor of electricity that affects the baby that is dwelling within that amniotic fluid. It affects their physiology. It affects their temperament. It affects their spirit. The bosom also takes on the color red and its variations, orange, light brown, harvest moon, and so forth, at moonrise and moonset. The Osrane, or the bosom, the moon, often takes on the red tint, as well as during a lunar eclipse. The Oriya, the sun, is also born, quote unquote, often in the red sky, taking on the red color. Ajua thus releases life-giving, quote unquote, blood in the sky as she releases the Oriya, the sun, and the moon, the Osrane, through her birth canal. We show an image of that. And then we show the red disc inside of the cow's horns on the headdress of Auset. Not only connects her to the rising and setting, quote unquote, red Oriya, sun. Sometimes the sun appears red when it's setting and rising and so forth, but also to the red bosom, Osrane, the moon, Osranebere, the red bere Osrane, moon. And this is what we're talking about tonight, because of course this is an Osranebere, or red moon, so-called blood moon. It's a total lunar eclipse. That means this Earth, Asasea Fua, is in between the moon and the sun, and they're directly aligned. And that magnetic energy of the moon and that electric energy of the sun is meeting up right through Asasea Fua. And of course, the magnetosphere surrounding Asasea Fua, the Earth Mother. And because we are direct children of Asasea Fua, the Earth Mother, and our magnetosphere is in alignment with hers individually, then we're directly impacted by this fusion of energy, this electromagnetic alignment. Full moon affects the rising of our tides. Just like we talked about the full moon affecting the rising of the tides of the Earth Mother, it affects the rising of the tides, the 70+% water within our bodies. It affects us, just like the mother's emotional energy affects the child through the amniotic fluid. Well, that mother moon right now is affecting the amniotic fluids of Earth, the oceans and rivers and so forth of Earth, the moisture in the sky and the atmosphere of Earth, but also the water within our body. And that alignment with moon, earth, and sun, Osrane, Asase, and Oriya, we can take advantage of that alignment. We can take advantage of that shift in energy so that we can birth what we need to birth. The things that we have been working on, we have been gestating and so forth, that began around the new moon, fullness now. There's a pregnancy now. There's a fullness, and we can gestate these things so they can be birthed properly. We can make adjustments before their birth if things have gotten out of alignment. We can heal ourselves with the quote-unquote Senef in Auset, the blood of Auset, by connecting with Nana Ajua, as well as Nana Ajo, but specifically Nana Ajua Auset on nights like tonight and tomorrow night as well. You can do that at your Kradim Bosom shrine, the shrine for your Kra, and so forth. Of course, you can go outside and engage in ritual practice as well. So that's another reason we connected on tonight. All of these things are meeting up tonight. The first Awusida, the first Sunday of 13,016. Also, the first sacred Sunday of 13,016, Ancestral Religious Observance. Also, the Osranebere, the red moon, or the quote-unquote blood moon. The shift in energy is something we want to take advantage of. And of course, the other piece, the main piece we want to focus on tonight, is the fact that our Nananum Nsamampo, our spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of Hoodoo Mayn, the Hoodoo Nation in North America, they directed us to establish our first annual Hoodoo Mayn festival. Hoodoo Mayn, Mayn means nation, community, people, and so forth. in the Akan language, but also in the language of ancient Kemet. Mayn means nation. Manu also means west or western hemisphere. So the Hoodoo Mayn is Hoodoo Nation, the Hoodoo Nation Festival. We want to bring back that understanding of Hudu, the Akan religion, born of our ancestral blood circles, unchanged from ancient Afuraitkaitnut into the Western Hemisphere. Very often people recognize the reality that when the Fawn and Ebe people were forced into North America, in their language, the term for deity, goddess or god, spirit, force, and creation is Vodou. And of course, they continue to practice their tradition under the term Vodou. What many people don't understand is that the Akan people, utilizing the term Ndu, meaning medicine, and Ndu, meaning conjure, and the Udu Yefo is the root-making person, the root-working person, the conjuring person, and so forth. The Udumafo, the Uduma people, Uduma people, the Hoodoo Mayn people, the Hoodoo Mayn and the Hoodoo woman, and so forth. These are titles in the Akan language specifically dealing with the healers and healeresses. Hoodoo specifically dealing with medicine, root work, root doctoring, and so forth. The exact same meaning, unchanged, for not only thousands of years in West Afuraitkaitnut, but in our book, Hoodoo People, we show it goes directly to ancient Kana. They directed us to reestablish our culture on a firm foundation. We never stopped practicing our ancestral religion. So in our book, we make a distinction. We make a delineation. Vodou comes from the Fon and Ebe people. Juju is a Yoruba term, comes from the Yoruba people. So when Yoruba people were forced into North America, they continued the Yoruba tradition, continued the Orisha tradition, and it was simply popularly referred to as Juju. So when you hear about people saying they practice Juju, originally these were Yoruba people in North America, not dependent on going to the continent or going to the Caribbean to get initiated and so forth. There were Yoruba people who were forced over here and they never stopped practicing their ancestral religion. They're not dependent on any initiation outside of their blood circle because Juju has never stopped. The same is true of Vodou in North America. The same is true of the Gris-Gris tradition amongst the Bambara people. Gris-Gris is a title used for talking about making medicine and ritual practice and so forth. That's dealing with, in the Bambara tradition, dealing with ritual medicine, healing, conjuring, working with ancestral spirits and divinities and so forth. That terminology became popularly used to refer to the entire tradition. So the Bambara tradition is popularly referred to as the Gris-Gris tradition. The Fon and Ebe tradition is popularly referred to as Vodou. The Yoruba tradition is popularly referred to as Juju, and the Akan tradition is popularly referred to as Hudu. That's how we came to North America. Later on, much later on, these terms became to be used in a generic fashion, in a slang fashion, just representing quote-unquote African religion in general, or quote-unquote black magic, and the whites and offspring will later begin to try to demonize the practices. The reason they demonize the practices in their own minds is because they fear the practice, because they understood it was under the power of Juju and Vodou and Gris-Gris and Hudu that we were empowered and directed to wage war against the slavers, kill them, kill their wives, kill their children, burn down plantations, and free ourselves from enslavement, and wage sustained warfare for decades against the whites and their offspring until we forced them into submission, forced them to accept abolition and emancipation. So we go into detail about that in the book, and we've done broadcasts on that in detail. So our Nsamanfo in Hoodoo Mayn, the Hoodoo Nation, directed us to start the first annual Hoodoo Nation Festival to bring this information about and pull people, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people, around an ancestral religious holiday, an ancestral religious festival of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people in North America. Our traditions that were unbroken for hundreds of years. And of course, we had our 7-day New Year celebration, and we did part of that. But this Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival will be an annual festival. We will have speakers. We will have vendors and so forth, as we said earlier, and every year will continue to grow. So let's look at the information on Hoodoo real quick. If you go to our link, the Hoodoo Mayn page, and we're going to put that link in the chat room real quick. And for anybody who has a question or a comment on the phone line, hit the number 1. If you're in the chat room and you would like to interact in the chat room, you must log in as a user to interact in the chat room. So we're going to go to the Hoodoo Mayn page, and this is the page we just completed actually this weekend. So we're moving very quickly to get everything taken care of so we can have, and of course everything is moving very quickly. Things are taking place in an orderly fashion. Everything will be in place for the community on October 17th, but we have to move in a quick fashion. We had initially planned to have this festival in the fall, but we weren't expecting the Nsumafo to push us to make it right less than a month after our ceremony on September 19th. But they wanted it to happen, and we can see why they wanted it to happen. It will happen the same time every year, the same like second or third weekend, second or third Minida Saturday every year in October. We want to continue that process. But this is the first annual piece, free event for Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people only, and we're going to get into that information. So if you go to the Hoodoo Mayn page, as you'll see, we have the 3-part flyer blown up on the page. This is our official page for the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival, October 17th, Washington, D.C. We're going to have an egua, a marketplace. As we say here, Akwamu Nation in North America, Akwamu Mayn, Amanokai TV invites the entire Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut community to the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival. You can shop with our egua marketplace vendors, learn about our ancestral religious heritage in North America through ritual, art, food, music, handmade products, literature, and workshops. We have some of our vendors in place already. We have a few spaces left for a few more vendors. So if you would like to then send us an email, you can go directly to the Hoodoo Mayn page, and then send us an email and let us know that you are interested in vending. We provide the tables and the chairs, a 6-foot table for you, and 2 chairs. All you have to do is bring your product. The vending fee for the table is $25, and you can make that payment right there on the Hoodoo Mayn page. Of course, the kinds of products we're looking, we don't want to duplicate products. We already have someone dealing with natural soaps and shea butter and cocoa butter and so forth. We have a vendor dealing with natural handmade jewelry and ancestrally inspired. We have Enna Etsy from Philadelphia, one of our Nananom Mpanyimpo honored eldresses, who will be providing the live raw food, a live raw food specialist, and we'd like to say Yedase to her because she is going to be donating the proceeds of the food that she sells to our Awusidae, our institution for learning, training, healing, employment, entrepreneurship, and so forth. And we'll talk about that. So we also have one of our most recent vendors, Akan Ancestral Observance, who wrote How to Make a Negro Christian, showing how the whites and their offspring in the 12,800s, the so-called 1800s, began to methodically push this notion of Christianity onto our people as a method of destroying the minds of our people, as a means by which to make our people docile slaves. So it's a methodical process, and he lays that information out in his publication. So he will be there as well. And as you look on the page and look at the updates, we will update the page as all the vendors come online, and then we'll have their bios and so forth on the page. You'll see who you will see at the event laid out on the page and so forth. We also will have workshops. We will be doing a presentation examining how our Akan ancestors and ancestors were forced into North America during the Mmusuo Kese, the Great Perversity, the enslavement era, and brought our ancestral religion with us. So, I'll give you a sample of some of the information that we will speak on in the book, our book, Hoodoo People. Now, we talked about how we brought our tradition to North America. It's key when we talk about ancestral blood circles and the inheritance of our people, which we call transcarnational inheritance. So what do we mean when we say transcarnational inheritance? Inheriting our culture intergenerationally and transcarnationally through specific blood circles via debra, via rebirth, via reincarnation through specific ancestral blood circles. So the same spirit who once lived as part of a community in Afuraitkai, forced into enslavement, you make your transition. You're an ancestral spirit, an ancestress, or an ancestor, watching your children grow up in America, guiding them as an ancestor. They grow up and have children, and their children grow up and have children, and you see your grandchildren and great-grandchildren and so forth growing up and developing over 100 years, 120, 130, and so forth. Eventually, you are drawn back into the womb. 40 weeks later, you're born into the world, and you're back on Earth for the first time in 175 years. Even though the blood has been mixed, as we say, well, tumi fra moja unso, tumi fra okra, the blood may be mixed, but the soul is not. You're the exact same spirit who once lived on the continent, who was forced into North America, waged war against the cracker, killed the cracker. After you made your transition, you became an ancestral spirit. We saw the intergenerational blood mixture in America. And when you were drawn back into one of the wombs of your descendants, your great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter, you may have been born with a lighter brown skin, but you're the exact same spirit. Your blood may have been mixed, but your soul has not been mixed. You want that? So, okay, your blood may have been mixed, but the soul has not been mixed. So you're the same spirit, and you're still connected to the same ancestral clan that you once lived as a part of. You're still connected to the abolisation, the orisha, the voodoo, the divinities that were assigned to you before you even got into the womb. So you come into the womb with abolisation, orisha, voodoo assigned to you. You come into the womb with certain specific ancestresses and ancestors of your blood circle assigned to you by the Supreme Being. So when you arrive into the world, when you arrive in the womb, and then when you're born into the world, you are born into the world with a culture. You're born into the world with a religion. You're born into the world with a specific manner in which you are to execute your function in creation. As Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people, and Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people only, we are cells within the great divine body of the Supreme Being. And just like every cell in your body has a specific function to execute in the body, heart cells serving the heart functions, liver cells serving the liver functions, and so forth, and when they serve their parent organs, they serve the whole great body at the same time. We are cells within the great divine body of the Supreme Being. When we serve our parent organs, the parent divinities that govern our head, then we're serving the great body at the same time. In that regard, we are cells within the great divine body. We have natural inclinations towards certain kinds of behaviors, thoughts, intentions, and actions. And we have a natural repulsion from certain thoughts, intentions, actions, behaviors, and so forth. The reason why you have attractions to certain things and a certain manner of doing things, and repulsions from other things and a certain manner of doing things or perceiving things and so forth, embracing things, is because you are wired with a specific means by which you are to execute. Just like your cells have a specific means by which they're drawn to do certain things and repelled from other things. That's because a culture is wired within them. A way of life is wired within them. The same is true of us. Inside our spirit body is our kra, or krawa, our soul, our divine consciousness. The divinity, a male divinity if you're male, a female divinity if female, assigned to your head region that takes up residence in the head region that guides you throughout the course of your life. That is your kra, your soul, your divine consciousness, as it's called in Akan culture, ka and kaida in ancient Kemet, ori inu in Yoruba, sebido and vodun and so forth, chi in Igbo. This is your personal divinity, personal obosom, personal orisha, voodoo, and so forth. Wired within that spiritual brain is your function, the means by which you are to execute your function, and the specific configuration of forces of energy you've been given to execute that function in your own unique, authentic way. You are wired with culture. So nobody can tell you, number one, you don't have an identity. And whites in our spring and brainwashed Negroes say we can never find out who we are because we were mixed up on the boats and so forth. That's an absolute lie. We can communicate directly with our ancestresses and ancestors tonight. Find out exactly from our great-grandparents what ancestral clan we come from tonight. You can find out specifically what your culture is tonight. Find out what your functioning creation is from the abosom that is sitting in your head region that's been guiding you throughout the course of your life tonight. So nobody can tell you in reality and truth that you don't have an identity and you don't have a culture. We have both, and they are born within us. They are inborn, innate, and intrinsic. So we say it is through the abosom, the deity, that our ancestral religious traditions are established. This is true of all Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut Africans wherever we are in the world. When the abosom first possessed our ancestresses and ancestors via ritual and communicated the divine order of creation directly to them thousands of years ago, our religious practice was established. When those first ancestresses and ancestors preserved what they were taught by the abosom, the deities, and transferred that tradition via protocol to their posterity without profanation, without profaning it, our religious practice is perpetuated. So it is established when the abosom first possessed our people. The first time we were ever possessed, first time someone was possessed by a divinity. When people saw the spirit moving through the divinity, and the divinity speaks and shows people the divine order of creation, shows them plant life, animal life, mineral life, shows them how to interact with plant life, animal life, mineral life in a harmonious fashion, shows them how to extract substances from plant life and mineral life to heal our people, shows us writing and so forth. The deity possesses and takes a stick and draws symbols in the soil, in the sand, and points to the symbol and makes the sound and makes us repeat the sound. And then we remember that symbol and the sound associated with it, and from that point on, that sound is connected to that symbol because it came directly from the abosom. We say Tahuti, as we said in the past, we did a broadcast on this, and Seshat taught us writing. We literally mean Tahuti and Seshat. Abe and Aberewa, or Brechiri Funwate and Aberewa in the Akan tradition. They literally taught us writing. They taught us the Medutu, the writing of the hieroglyphs and so forth, through possession and direct communication. When people get possessed and lay hands and heal people of illness, when the abosom possesses people. We've been doing that for tens of thousands of years. So when the abosom possess, the deities possess, the traditions are established. Fusion of forces of divine order operating within the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut human sphere. Culture is established. Traditions are established. When our ancestresses and ancestors, who were elders and eldresses, took the information that was given by the abosom through possession and communication, transferred that information, that tradition via protocol to us, their posterity, without profaning it, our religious practice was perpetuated, established by the abosom and perpetuated by the elders and eldresses, the Nananom Mpanyifo, who later would become ancestresses and ancestors Nananum Nsamapo. Our knowledge of Nyamewa Nyame Nsheshe, the mother and father supreme being, divine order, our role in the divine order, and the means by which we can ritually incorporate divine law and ritually restore divine balance to our lives every generation, as the Abosom and Nananom Nsamapo continue to communicate with us via spirit possession and spirit communication. Akom and Nkom, as we call it in the Akan tradition. Spirit possession and spirit communication. Replenishing every generation through continuous communication. Ancestral spirit possession includes communication with our ancient Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut, or African ancestresses and ancestors, up to our recently transitioned ancestresses and ancestors of good character, specifically of good character or sacred character. Whenever we have children, we have drawn one or more of our Nsamapo, our ancestresses and ancestors, into the womb to return to our Sasea for the earth mother once again. The knowledge of the religion and culture is written into their Akra, the soul, the divine consciousness, by Nyamewa Nyame, the supreme being. As they grow and develop, they access this ancestral knowledge and incorporate it into every aspect of their lives when properly acculturated. Through this process, they positively impact the lives of everyone in the community. This is transcarnational transmission of culture, the intergenerational spirit-genetic transmission of culture, which is impervious to being broken through the horrors of the Mmusuo Kese, the great perversity of the enslavement era. You cannot lose your culture when it's transmitted transcarnation through successive reincarnation, through Bebra, as it's called in Akan Rebirth. And of course, this is in the introduction to our book on Hudu called Hoodoo People. Now, so we could go through past some of the other information. We just show how we came to North America, as we talked about earlier. Talked about different Akan populations in South America, Caribbean, and North America. Akan religion in North America is popularly called Hudu. As we demonstrate in our publication, the term Hudu is the same term used amongst the Akan in West Africa, West Africa, and of course we published our book, Afuraitkaitnut, the origin of the term Africa, proving conclusively we're the first to show the term Africa comes from Afurakanu, and we show that in the Medutu, in the hieroglyphs, and so forth. It's the same term, Hudu, used in West Afuraitkaitnut, referencing ritual healing, medicine, and the conjuring of the Abosom and Nsamanko. It was through Hudu that Akan people in North America were empowered to wage war against the white slavery. This includes the New York Rebellion in 12,712, so-called 1712, when 9 out of the 21 Afuraitkaitnut people who were captured after the rebellion was over were found to have Akan Ancestral, meaning soul names like Kweku and Kojo and Kofi and Ama and so forth. Numerous Akan people who escaped enslavement and established independent nations away from the plantations, such as in the Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia and North Carolina. Independent nations wherein our people lived in freedom and defended their freedom with their own militias. Intergeneration. Many people don't learn about the independent communities we established when we escaped from plantations, burned them down, established our own independent nations, established our own militias, grew our own food, procured our own medicine intergenerationally while slavery was still going on, and then we would raid plantations, free more of our people, and bring them back to the free territory. Dismal Swamp, the Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia, North Carolina is just one example of that. Of course, we have the Gullah areas in the Gullah Geechee corridor up and down the East Coast, major areas in Florida and so forth, where the Gullah Wars jumped off and we waged war as a collective of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people against the United States government for over 50 years. those wars and mislabeled the Seminole Wars, or more properly called the Gullah Wars, and we did a broadcast on that. The Great War waged by Okunfo Yah, Warrior Yah, Nat Turner, in Southampton, Virginia, which resulted in the massacre of numerous white enslavers. His paternal grandmother was Akan. He was an Akan spirit who returned, waged war against the whites and their offspring. His massacre of these crackers sent shockwaves throughout the South, because they feared every time they looked at the black person, would this be one of the black people who will wake up the next day and cut their heads off and cut the heads off of their children and burn down their plantation? The whites and their offspring after that really began to force this whole notion of we must begin to brainwash these people with Christianity to make them docile slaves, or they will massacre us all. So they started moving towards the religious instruction of the Negro. And of course, Amal's book deals with that in detail. He's going to be one of our vendors. And he's been on our show as well. You'll see his link on the Oklahoma Economic Development page. They pushed Christianity. They were also, at the same time, working to establish the American Colonization Society and trying to repatriate some of our people to Liberia, some of the individuals to Sierra Leone and so forth, trying to get as many of our people out of here. The ones that they kept, they were brainwashed with Christianity to keep them docile because they saw what was taking place. We were waging war, rising up and massacring the whites and their offspring, powered by Hudu. And this is just an example. The great war waged by, or the freedom movement of Nana Abena Araminta, Harriet Tubman, who led hundreds of enslaved Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut to freedom. Her descendants have confirmed Akan ancestry via DNA. And of course, she led a contingent during the Civil War of the Combahee River and freed over 700 Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut from enslavement, the first woman to lead a military contingent in the Civil War. The great uprising planned by Okunfo Kwabena, warrior Kwabena, so-called Telemake Denmark Visi. He organized over 9,000 Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut to revolt against the white slavers in South Carolina, one of the largest organized revolts in the true history of America. Okunfo Kwabena was reported to have been Kuramanti, meaning that is the title they use for Akan, coming from the title of a region in the Fanti area called Koromanse. So we give that true history to show that when we were powered by our Akan Ancestral Religion, Hudu and so forth, we waged war against the whites and our offspring, forcing them into the acceptance and submission of abolition, forcing them through the Gullah Wars, into emancipation, which is really what kicked off the Civil War and so forth. It was the Gullah Wars that started that process, that 50-year conflict, 50-year war, forced them into the position of dealing with repatriation and so forth, forcing the whites and their offspring to end the enslavement process because they feared if they did not, and they knew that if they did not, we would massacre them all. So then they began to move towards brainwashing our people with Christianity, and that was their new project. So we get into that in that introduction. Then we go through the book. That's just the introduction, and then we go through talking about the etymology of the term Hoodoo, and so forth, proving that in the Akan language, showing all the correspondences and so forth, and then we get into showing those exact same terms in ancient Kemet. Hudu meaning medicine, Hudu meaning roots and plants and stalks and so forth. Hudu also meaning to conjure, the spirits of the ancestresses and ancestors, to conjure the divinity. Hudu also means to make an offering. Hudu also means an offering table in the language of Khmer. We show all of the Hindu to the hieroglyphs for that. Hudu also means to bore, to penetrate, talking about possession. And that's later down within the book. It also means when you're giving an offering, the determinative symbol, the Deben symbol of the circle, the counterclockwise circle, and what that's dealing with is the counterclockwise circular dance movements they call ring shout all over the South. In Akan culture, it's called the Akom dance and so forth, where people dance in a counterclockwise circle in harmony with the movement of the Earth Mother, Asase Afua, and then possession takes place within that circle. We never stop engaging in the ring shot. You see that circular pattern as a determinative symbol for the word for ritual offering, an offering table, and that word is Hudu, which is Hudu. We also quote from some other texts in ancient Kemet. And in fact, we show the Divin symbol and talks about circles, circuit, a circumference, to move around, revolve in a specific circular fashion. And when it's connected to ritual offerings, we know exactly what they're talking about because we still move around in that circular fashion to give the Undu, the ritual offerings and so forth, and engage in possession. And we just want to find that page real quick so you can see it directly. Of course, Undu also means to copy or to write and so forth. We just talked about how that process takes place through possession. We just wanted to scroll down now. We quote from one of the texts, 21st dynasty, in ancient Kemet, offering to the deity, when making ritual offerings to the Abosom, the deity, you are invoking, guard against offering that which the divinity detests. The term for offering in the translation, in the actual language is Ndu or Ndun. When making ritual offerings, that's the English translation, but the term is when making Ndu or making Hudu to the Abosom, you are invoking guard against offering that which the Abosom detects. We have another specific text, and it says the Abosom detests much idle speaking in its shrine. The deity detests much idle speaking in the shrine. Make your prayers or invocations, therefore, with a heart which is lawful, whose invocations are internal and not boastful. Deity, the Abosom, will attend to the work you are doing ritually, hear that which you have inquired about, and accept your offering. The term for offering is Ndu. So the deity will accept your Ndu or accept your Hudu. This is directly from the Medutu, from the language of ancient Kemet. So we show in the language that the term Undu is used for offerings, used for ritual medicine, used for the ring shout, the circular dance movements that we use, the major form of worship where we move in that circular fashion to get possessed by the Abosom. All of that in ancient Kanat, so-called Nubia. You get to West Afurakai, Undu means medicine. Undu means conjuring the Abosom and so forth, ritual practice, root work, root medicine, root doctor, and so forth. And then when we get to North America, Hoodoo means root work, Hoodoo means conjure, the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo women are engaged in healing and so forth. And they also engage in the ring shop, moving in the counterclockwise circle and so forth. We never stop practicing our ancient ancestral culture. Before we go forward, we have some comments in the chat room. And if you have a question or a comment, of course, you can hit the number 1 on the phone line. So that gives a basis of, so that kind of information we will be going into detail about when we do our presentation at the festival. The Hoodoo Mayn Festival, Hoodoo Nation Festival, again, is Washington, D.C., October 17th. From 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. It is a free event for Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut only. We have a few more spaces open for vending. So if you would like to vend, you can connect with us. Just simply send us an email. Let us know that you are interested in vending, and we can send you that information. And again, the vending fee is $25. We also are publishing the Hoodoo Mayn Journal. There will be a Hoodoo Mayn Journal that we will publish and give to all attendees of the event for free. We will be publishing information about Hoodoo, but it's also a business directory. Businesses, organizations, and institutions, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut. So if you would like to purchase ad space within the journal, you have to do so quickly because we need to get time to print the journals out. Again, it's short notice. We had to do everything this weekend, and we put the website together this weekend, and we put the Facebook page together this weekend, and we send the information out this weekend to some of the vendors and to the other prospective speakers. and we will be adding all that information in the next couple of days. But we also added that information about the Hoodoo Journal yesterday as well on the Hoodoo Mayn page. So you'll see that specific image, and it says Nhoma Journal 13,016. And what we say in that section, the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival Nhoma Journal is a book that will be given to all attendees of the festival for free. Include your business, organization, institution, or personal ad in our Nhoma, our journal, and reach thousands in the community. We hope to have about 1,000 people come through within the course of 7 hours, and then when they take those journals back to their people and share them, then that will exponentially, expand the reach of people seeing your ads, whether they are for your business, your institution, your organization, or personal ads as well. Just if you appreciate the work that we're doing, would like to take out an ad, we have 1/4 page, 1/2 page, full page. The 1/4 page ad is $25. The half page ad is $35, and the full page ad is $50. And we have a PayPal button right there on the site, so you can do that. All you have to do is send us an email with the JPEG of your ad, let us know what your business is about, organization, institution, and so forth. Of course, we're only promoting Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut businesses, organizations, and institutions, and those that reflect our ancestral religious and cultural values. So therefore, we're not promoting any Islamic or Christian or Hebrew or Moorish, none of that misinformation, nonsensical information. Nothing founded in that misinformation, anything Eurocentric and so forth. Something that's based in our ancestral value, our culture, born of our blood circle. So you have a business, organization, institution rooted in our values and our ancestrally inherited values. We're glad to have your information in the journal and share that information with thousands of our people. So you can hit us up right now. When you go to the page, you'll see the email address and you'll see the ad space, and you can make the purchase right there on the site. The last order for the ads is September 30th, but we really need to get those in because then we need to be able to order the materials because we print ourselves. We print in-house, in color on our own printers. Of course, we have published 16 books. All of the ebook versions of our books are free. Downloads from our website, which many people know that. We also sell the softcover versions of our books. They range between $8 and $11. But we do have to get the materials. We typically print on demand, so we have to have time to order that large supply of colored ink and so forth so we can get these journals printed out prior to the event and to have time just in case there are delays and things like that and shipping ink and shipping, other things. So the deadline is September 30th, specifically for those ads, but also as far as the vending space, that's first come, first serve. We have about 6 more spaces, I believe, that are left. 6 or 7, something like that. So you can email us immediately, akamumayn@ojirapo.com. You'll see that email link on the webpage there. Now, some people will personal ads. They may, for example, the Nanasom Feku, the Nanasom Ancestral Religion study groups that have formed in different cities. If you'd like to take out an ad for your study group, you can do that just to share with the Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut community that, yes, we're not only supporting the work and supporting the Hoodoo Nation Festival, an ancestral religious festival for Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnut people in North America, but also to show other Black people that this is not just, they don't just come in contact with one person every now and then who might be into some quote-unquote hoodoo stuff, but this is actually a movement. Many people don't recognize how much of a movement it really is. For example, a couple of years ago when we had about 472,000 hits on our website in the course of one year that just passed, which ended on September 22nd, over that past 12-month period, we had 1.34 million hits on the website because there is an expansion of this information getting out. There are people all over the country and in different parts of the world, wherever our people are, who are establishing their ancestral religious practices in their blood circles themselves, as well as with their children, their families, and so forth. They're rejecting Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hebrewism, all of that nonsense, atheism in droves, and returning back to their ancestral culture. This is a movement that will not be stopped. It is a sustained movement. And once people see other individuals who are beginning to engage that process openly, not just when they're in connection with their quote-unquote cultural friends, but they begin to see that people are practicing Hoodoo. Hoodoo comes back on the scene in the form of a yearly festival, a city, in a large, relatively large city, and people are starting to pay attention, and people are starting to establish their ancestral shrine, change their name, reclaim their ancestral names and so forth, going through the entire process, reincorporating that information for their children, beginning to raise their children on that culture, raise them in the culture, birthing them into the culture and so forth. People will begin to see that this is a movement. And sometimes people want to see that there are other people out there like them. Sometimes you're online, you may think you're the only person in your area who are engaged in this kind of practice. But then you find out there's somebody near you who's engaged in ancestral religious practice, studying similar things. When people see this information and thousands of people get their hands on this free journal, which we will have articles in the journal dealing with ancestral religion and culture and ritual practice and so forth, but also the personal ads as well as the ads for the institutions, organizations, and businesses and so forth. And people see that there are many, many people out here studying and practicing. They feel more emboldened and empowered to step out, reject that Christianity, and move towards Islam and so-called Hebrewism and Judaism and pseudo-metaphysics and everything else, atheism, all of the foolishness they reject, and get back and start moving towards their ancestral religious practice. I'm going to go through the chat room real quick, make sure we didn't miss anything. And give me 1 second, hold on. I'm going to go through the chat room real quick. If you have a question or a comment on the phone line, hit the number 1 so we can see that your hand is raised. And we saw some comments in the chat room. We want to make sure we didn't miss anything. One question would like to know what it means when the other planets move over the different constellations from our perspective. Is there any info that exposes the real names of the constellations? So, yes, if you look at ancient Kemet, you look at, for example, the 36, what they would call decans, or the different regions of the sky where the constellations manifest. There are traditional names, of course, for each one of these major constellations, whether you look at the zodiac of Dendera, or if you look at some of the calendars from the time of Sin and Mut and so forth, you'll find these different constellations. You'll find the names of the divinities that govern these constellations and so forth. Just like the sun is a great star, there are greater suns. And just like the sun affects our planet most powerfully, those other suns are far further away, but then their energy affects our sun, which affects our planet and so forth. So when you look at the constellations and you look at the planets, they are influential, but they are not determinate. And that is key, because sometimes people talk about astrology. Very often they're using the tropical chart, or they're using a sidereal chart, and both of those charts are off when you look at an astronomical zodiac where the actual constellations are. They're not, 12 constellations of 30 days each and so forth, all around the same length. There are now actually 13 constellations that cross the ecliptic, and the length of time that the sun operates through these different constellations is different. One of them is 7 days, one of them is 45 days, one of them is 32 days. It varies. So there are 13 constellations, not 12, and all of the days vary. They are influential, but they are not determined. What is determinate with regard to your spirit is the deity that was assigned to your head region pre-incarnation, before you got into the womb. What aboso? what Orisha, what Vodou was assigned to your head region pre-incarnation? What patriclan and matriclan divinities were assigned to you pre-incarnation? The sperm cell swims with the energy that animates the sperm cell is the divinity that has protected your patriclan ancestresses and ancestors for thousands of years. The ovum cell is vibrant, but the force that animates the ovum cell is a matriclan divinity we call the Awusidae bosom that has protected your matriclan ancestresses and ancestors for thousands of years. That goes into your spiritual, quote-unquote, DNA, just like your physical DNA coming from the ovum and sperm cell and so forth, mitochondrial DNA in the mother and the Y chromosome DNA of the father, but in the same fashion. And that, of course, deals with your characteristics and to a certain extent, your temperament, but physiologically and psychologically to a certain extent, but in the same fashion, the matriclan divinity that animates the ovum cell, the patriclan divinity that animates sperm cells gives further nuance to your character, to your uniqueness. So when you look at a triangle and you have the apex, that's like your crowd, your soul, your divine consciousness, the divinity in the head region. The bottom right and left triangle can be connected to the patriclan and matriclan divinities and the ancestresses and ancestors who are connected to those patriclan and matriclan divinities. That Akinasa, that triangle, that three-tiered structure, or three-sided structure, so to speak, is like us, with the cry at the apex in the head region, and then even if you look at your lungs, where the patriclan and matriclan divinities are given that vitality and so forth, animating us. So those three divinities together, the cry, soul, divine consciousness, the patriclan and matriclan divinities, the Ejabosum and Abusia Bosum, as we call them in Akan, they are determinate with regard to your behavior, with regard to your character, with regard to your nature, with regard to your function in creation. That determines who you are and what your function is to be, and that happens pre-incarnation. Then you are a spirit sent into a womb, and then you're born on a specific day. And then you have the day that you're born, of course, there are planets and constellations that are governing that particular day, and they have an influence. But that's an influence, that's a nudge, that's a push. But what determines your character is the divinity that you're born into the world with. Of course, the whites in our offspring cannot teach that because they have no deity connected to them because they are spirits of disorder, which is what separates them from us. They have no kayak, no kra, no krawa, no soul, divine consciousness. They're a spirit without a kra, a discordant, disjointed spirit without a krawa, like a body without a brain. You can imagine the physical body of a person walking around and their brain has been removed, like a chicken with its head cut off running amok. But you have people who are spirits without a kra, without an anchor in divine order. These are the whites in their offspring. That's why they are spirits of disorder, and they incarnate as spirits of disorder. There is no exception to that reality. That means white Europeans, white Americans, white Hindus, white Arabs, white Hispanics, white Latinos, white Latinas, white Asians, white pseudo Native Americans who are just migrant Asians. They are all spirits of disorder and totally disconnected from us. So only our people have that. So of course they can't teach quote unquote astrology in a proper fashion. So what they put forward is misinformation, disjointed information, because they can't talk about what deity governs your patriclan and matriclan and governs your crop, because they don't have that. So let me know if that answers the question. Okay, so how do we know or can tell from the Akan perspective that Sunday is truly Sunday, not truly Monday? Our day begins at sunrise. That's the beginning of the day. Not midnight, as the whites in our offspring will put forward. Of course, at the dead of night, the darkest and the coldest time, they say good morning. It's like at the deadest, darkest, coldest, most unfertile time of the year, January 1st. It's cold, dead, and at midnight, they come out the caves out of the ice and scream out Happy New Year when it's dead, dark, cold, and bleak. That's what a caveman would do. Our people do not recognize the new year in the dead and darkness of night, and we do not recognize the beginning of the day as the dead and darkness of night. When sun rises, that's the beginning of the 24-hour cycle. So that determines the beginning of the day and from sunrise to sunrise. Okay, so we just want to go through these sections real quick, make sure we didn't miss anything. In the chat room, we saw a couple of more questions. And again, if you have a question or comment on the phone line, hit the number 1. And we're just scrolling through. Since Akan is matrilineal, does this mean the child of an Akan man cannot have an Akan spirit unless the child's mother is Akan? So that's a good question. And when we, in our book, the Okra complex, the soul of Akan, when we talk about the nature of the Okra, the soul, we call Kan, Kaida, Nenchi, Kamen, Order, Inu, and Yoruba, Sebido, and Bodun, Chi, and Igbo. We talk about the Okra in detail, and it's the most extensive analysis and examination of the nature of the Okra, the soul, the Ka, the Kaya, published by any author, black, white, or whatever. In general, when Akan people are living in a natural situation, ancestors and ancestors come through that matriclan. You're connected to your matriclan ancestresses and ancestors, and when you are about to be born back into the world, you are sent through one of those matriclan ancestresses and ancestors. If you are of the Asona Abusia, Asona clan, then you will be sent through one of your Asona descendants. That's in a normal setting. So, of course, in Akan culture, they say, well, if your mother is Akan, then you're Akan, and you're associated with her clan and so forth. But then things became disjointed. And as we understand identity, we can properly analyze what takes place. If one of our people, if you, for example, were from the Asona Abusia, the Asona clan, and you were snatched up and taken into North America, and you were forced into North America, enslaved in North America, forced to have a child and breed with somebody else was on a plantation and so forth. Maybe that person was Igbo. So now you're an Akan male, you with an Igbo woman. When you copulate with that Igbo woman, one of two things is going to happen. Either one of her ancestresses and ancestors will be drawn into that womb, or one of yours will be drawn into that womb. And if one of yours is drawn into that womb, one of your Asona ancestresses or ancestors, they will come through the womb of an Igbo woman and be born into the world. So the baby would say, oh, well, my mother is Igbo and my father's Akan. But who is that spirit before it got into the womb? What is this transcarnational identity? What is its transcarnational inheritance? We can determine that because we can communicate directly with our direct blood ancestresses and ancestors. So we can flesh that out. So the normal rule, of course, if we're all living amongst one another in a normal Akan community on the continent and so forth, the Nsamafa will send their people through when it's time for them to be reborn into the clans of the people. But when we got disjointed and split up and thrown on boats and thrown in plantations and so forth, when it's time for some of our people to come through, they will send the Nsamafa will send their colleague to come and be born into the world. If it's connected with a male, and it's the only Akan male in the area, the only Akan male from that blood circle, that so-called blood lineage, that blood circle in this specific area, and there are no other Akan women, but that's time for that Akan ancestor return or ancestress to return to wage war against the white offspring. That Akan ancestor or ancestress who is guiding this Akan male throughout his travails on the plantation until he freed himself, that Akan ancestor or ancestress, they are ready to be born, and whoever he copulates with, in this instance, he pulls that Akan Ancestrals back. So even though his blood will be mixed, he may have, the child will have an Igbo mother and Akan father, but his soul is not mixed. So he's still that exact same Akan spirit who used to live on the continent. He has returned to the world. So we understand our transcarnational identity. And that's one of the things, as a matter of fact, on Joda, on Monday night, on the Monday of our 7-day New Year celebration, the Ebe, or the proverb, the proverbial wisdom, divine ancestral wisdom teaching on that specific day is Wotumi Fra Moja, so Wotumi Kra, which we talked about earlier. You can mix blood, but you cannot mix the soul. And we ritually reaffirm that every year during our 7-day celebration on Joda, that day connected to Ajawa. We focus on talking about that birth, that identity, that transcarnational inheritance. So we reaffirm that for ourselves and reaffirm that in our children so that we understand. And we can find out our identity. It doesn't matter what happened to us here. We have a transcarnational identity. Okay, we're going to go to the phone line.
Well, I'm not using it. Yeah.
Michiabo on the phone line number 5466. You got a question or comment?
It's your appropriate level of effort, prepared compound. Hello?
Yes, on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm at work, brother. Yes,
okay.
Yes, sir. Man, the first thing I want to say is you've been extremely helpful, man. I've been building on my shrine. You know, I've called a couple times. You may recognize my voice, and I instant message you on Facebook. Do you recognize me at all? Yeah, peace, brother. I am at work. I knew this was going to happen. I knew that I was going to be in the middle of a conversation. But anyway, thank you. And I am in touch with my personal abode, so I've always spoke to my ancestors, so that's never been an issue for me. But since I started building on my shrine, things have just been more clear. But I did hear you say something. How do we determine who's in charge of our paternal and maternal matriclans? That's one question. And the second question, and I think I might have an inkling of the answer, is my father. My father was a Khan, and my father's, learn more about my father's history in this country, my father's brother's history in this country, more so the men. And they all end up in violent situations. And I personally believe that it's because we're here. You know what I mean? I've been okay, but I also was prone to violence. And I also just had a child. And, I know how to manage that. I know how to discipline it because I was able to do it myself, But do you think that particular thing coming out of that side of that family, and we're dealing with Yao, you know what I mean, on that side of the family, that's who I'm dealing with. What can we do about it? Or I personally just feel like that it's something that we need to be doing here that particular spirit has not been able to accomplish, and they're angry, not with us, but it just feels like we dealing with our enemies, and we're stuck in a situation where we have to deal with them most of the time. Just in reality, most of us don't have the ability to have our own business. I'm trying to get there, and that's actually what I've been, dealing with on my own. And I'm trying to get out of it. Literally, the last part of my life I have to deal with these crackers is at my job. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about that? I guess I'll stop there and I'll put my phone on mute.
No, that's a good question. So, on one hand, you talked about determining the patriclan and matriclan divinities and so forth. Now, of course, the most direct way is coming directly from those who dealt with this divinity on a regular basis. And, of course, those are our direct matriclan and patriclan ancestresses and ancestors. In the Akan tradition, of course, you'll look at 12 major Toro groups, Edja Bosom groups, patriclan divinities, like Nana Bosom Afram and Bosom Po and Bosom Sika and Bosom Erebe and so forth. And then you see the 7 major Mbusia, the matriclans and so forth. Agona and Asuna and Adriana and Akoana and Asinie and Brietuo and Asatiri and so forth. So you see these different clans. Now, since we have those lists, you'll see those names, and sometimes people know right away just by reading those names and what they're about and what animal totems are associated with them. And we posted in the, as a matter of fact, in the Afuraitkaitnut site. If you look at knowing your Abusia and Ntoro, if you look at that particular discussion, one of the links in the PDF, one of the PDF links is a list of the patriclan divinities, the names of those patriclan divinities, and then a list of the 7 major Abusia, the 7 major clans, matriclans, and their animal totems and their names and specific attributes. And then you look at the 12 patriclan divinities, their names, their sacred days, their achinebois, their animal totems, their achiwadie, their taboos and so forth, and specific readings and so forth. Seeing those lists, sometimes people know right away. They'll be drawn to the specific one when they see its name and see its animal totem and see the certain characteristics associated with that clan, they'll know. But even beyond that instinctive knowing, when you connect with your people, your direct ancestors and ancestors, they still deal with that divinity right now. And of course, they can show you which one of those 12 divinities it is, if they have not shown you in some fashion already. When you come across the animal totem and so forth and specific characteristics, you realize, wait a minute, I've been dealing with this my entire life. Or, for example, on the matriclan side, someone who's a Asuna person, one of the major Achinebois or animal totems for the Asuna Abusia is the white-crested raven. In the Western Hemisphere, that will be the crow, the black crow. So people, and that the Nsamanfo and the Abosom, but the Nsamanfo will send the Achinebois, the animal totem, to you at specific junctures, critical junctures within your life to communicate certain things, stop you from doing certain things. They'll get in your way in certain capacities and so forth. So when people find out the specifics about the characteristics and so forth of people of that clan, of that Abusia, and then they start, looking back over the course of their lives at specific junctures and see that crow, that Dabi, that crow kept showing up at specific times. And they were like, man, it seems like the crow is always showing up. And then they will find out when they study more that people of the Asona Abusia, the crow is sent by the Nsaman for specific junctures within their lives. So that will be a partial confirmation. The direct confirmation, of course, comes directly dealing with your Nsaman specifically, and they're confirming that for you. But they've already put you on the path to put you in front of people in situations where you came in contact with some form of that animal totem or some form of even individuals who are part of that clan who will connect with you. You'll find out somebody you were communicating with on a regular basis or came in contact with. Turns out their name is one of the names of people from that specific clan, that specific patriclan, that specific matriclan, and so forth. So, but the key is learning directly from your Nananoma and Samafo, and then they will show you confirmation, show you those clues that they've been showing you all along. When it comes to certain intergenerational things that are happening, it seems that happening negative. Almost seems like what some people will say, well, it seems like we're cursed and we keep coming in contact with the same kinds of individuals, the same kinds of situations and so forth. When people talk about an intergenerational, quote-unquote, curse, what was really going on is you have ancestresses and or ancestors who, when they made their transition, who had got caught up in that kind of activity, when they made their transition, they did not transition smoothly to the ancestral realm, to Asamando. So they end up being twin or wait about, those spirits that are hanging around, quote unquote, haunting the house that they lived in or hanging around the place where they died, and those kinds of things we've talked about before in the other broadcast. So they become earthbound to that extent. They never complete their own development. They're no different in that regard than a person whose life spiraled out of control for one reason or another, whether they were using drugs or engaged in other kinds of negative activity and so forth, and they become homeless. And now they have no place to stay, but they're just hanging around the street. And nobody's paying attention to them. People walk by them all day long, year after year after year. They lash out at people whenever they walk by them. They may scream at them or something or try to, influence them. If they get too extra, somebody may, challenge them or, even attack them and so forth and push them back. But in the same fashion, when that kind of person makes their transition, they're still just as depressed, they're just as anxious, they're just as angry, but they're just not operating through a physical body. And all that kind of negativity, when they get in the midst of you, get connected to you, they're already connected to you by blood because they were one of your relatives. So they're not in the physical body, so they show up in dreams, they're in your space, they're connected to your aura and so forth, and they're distracting people and influencing people to make bad decisions with regard to money, bad decisions with regard to relationships, bad decisions when they're driving and causing crashes, bad decisions about the foods they eat or the kind of things they will drink or engage in lust or all kinds of things that will make their lives spiral out of control or keep putting them in situations that are negative situations because they're being distracted and influenced by these discarnate entities, these discarnate relatives. So the key is, of course, to first take control of yourself by aligning with your cry, aligning with your Nsamafo, repelling these individuals if they're negative and criminal. But if they're not negative and criminal, they're just depressed and anxious and angry and so forth. It's no different than if somebody is homeless and they're just depressed and anxious and angry. There are programs, there are social services programs, human services programs. They can get them in a program, get the person off the street, get them in a program, go through some rehabilitation, and they can reintegrate into the community. They engage in ritual practice. They get the people, quote unquote, off the street, the earthbound spirits off the street, get them rehabilitated, and help them make that transition to the ancestral realm so the Nsamafo, they take over from there. Very often the ritual practice, engaging in that kind of ritual prayer, directing that kind of ritual prayer towards the abosom and so forth, is to show this discarnate spirit, listen, you're wasting your time. It's having a straight-up, real talk with them. You're wasting your time. You're not going to solve your issues by simply lashing out on a regular basis, just like you, at some point when a drug addict hits rock bottom and they need that stern talk, that real talk, you're either going to continue to spiral out of control or you're going to take control of yourself, but you are no longer going to control or influence me. And they live off of influencing people. As long as they can negatively influence you, that's the only quote-unquote, quote-unquote life they have, in the sense that that's the only influence they have. That's the only power they have. They can influence you negatively because they're on some negative stuff. But once you take control of your own life and reject and repel their negativity and they have no control over you, it's like a homeless person may scare certain people when they yell at them, but when somebody steps up and is about to knock them out, then they back down. They have no control over those people anymore. So they have to move away and go try to control somebody else because they might get beat down in this area. In the same fashion, they make their transition, that kind of person, they can, quote-unquote, live, so to speak. They can exercise influence, is what we're talking about. If the people don't know any better, if the people are weak, the people are not receptive, people don't understand, they just feel like they themselves are making their own bad decisions and don't realize they are being negatively influenced to a certain degree. Once you take control over your own life, you repel that negative energy and they can't control you, they can't influence you anymore, so now they're isolated once again. And they have to make a decision. Are they going to stay in this isolation or are they going to move forward and you give them that option? And then you through quote-unquote ritual human services, you move them into a program so they can get themselves together. And the Nsamafo take over from there. So, It's dealing with the Nsamafo. You see what I'm saying? It's dealing with them, connecting, learning directly from them, getting that confirmation from them. And then those ritual practices, Akwasidae, Awusidae, like tonight, every sixth Sunday in Akan cultures and Ancestral Observance, you're taking time away from your normal activities to deal in a communal fashion with the ancestors and ancestors of your direct blood circle every sixth Sunday, every sixth Wednesday, in between that every sixth Sunday cycle. And those things are connected to that. Also, with the Patriclan divinity, they have their own sacred days as well. So Nanaboso Mafram, for example, Minida Saturday is sacred. There's a specific Saturday within the 42-day cycle that is sacred to Nanaboso Mafram, which is one of the 12 Patriclan divinities. And that day, people connected to that patriarch clan will either go to that river, or if you can't get, of course, to the Afuraitkaitnut River because we're not there, we have that bowl of water on our shrine and it's consecrated to that divinity, then we wash our heads with that water and so forth, and we connect with that divinity as well. And that helps to empower everybody who's connected to that patriarch clan divinity as well in the blood circle. Living and
okay. You actually just sparked a couple things. I want to ask you this now because I don't want to forget. I want to write it down. What book was it that had the names where we can research the patriarch clans and matriarch clan names?
Okay, so 2 places. The list of all of the names is in the the Okra complex, the soul of Akan. And then there's a link. I'll repost the link in our Ning network. It was in a discussion where the discussion was called knowing the value of your Abusia and Nsoro, and then we placed the link in there. The whole little link is just a PDF file, maybe 15 pages or something like that, and it's written all in Tree, but you can see those translations from the dictionary. I'll repost that link in the network.
And I'm gonna tell you, you're right, man. Because I had what I would call my moment of clarity when, I had told you on a previous phone call to me, and they said that I had to strengthen myself a long time ago, back in '99. You know what I mean? And I feel grateful that I had that moment, because ever since then, I just feel like even when I butted heads and I tried to go in one direction, they just kept knocking me back on the right road. And ever since I've been, communing with my shrine, I've been able I used to read a lot, when you read things and you try to find what vibrates with your cry, and at this point with the shrine, I've actually been, gilded into action. You know what I mean? Like, all right, bet we need these plants. I need my own food. You know what I'm saying? We already got chickens. I need to go on and save up so we can get these cows. You know what I mean? And get some more goats on the land. You know what I mean? Like, I've been gilded to action. And especially what you just said on those crows. Like, and my grandmother actually had her thing was elephants. You know what I mean? That was my grandmother on my mother's side. But when it comes to that crow, man, I mean, I could tell you so many stories about that black crow that it's ridiculous. Do you know anything in particular about, like, the elephants, though? Or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's what I was going to say next. When I said that of the Asona Abusia, the Asona clan, the Asona Matriarch clan, a major animal totem is the crow. The other major animal totem is the Esunu, which is the elephant for the Asona clan. So the elephant, the Esunu, and the Akwasidae, the crow, is connected to the Asona Abusia, the Asona clan.
Man, I kid you not. Right now, I have like a 40-pound bronze elephant in my crib that I got from my grandmother. And you know what's funny is my mother, who, I don't know if I told you this because Mom's is still an ordained minister. She listens. You remember I told you that. But Mom's, if she actually at one point wanted to throw it away, and I swear to you, as a grown man, I almost threw a fit and cried. I was like, that, just real talk. Like, we don't get rid of that elephant. That was Grandma's. So I still got that huge, freaking heavy bronze elephant that Grandma had. So you're right, man. I mean, and that's the whole thing about it. And I read, but what's funny is ever since I've been communing with the shrines, like, sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'll crack some of these books. It's like, no, man, you got work to do. That's what it feel like, and I got work to do, and I'm guided, like, in different directions like that, my brothers is calling me. They need help with this. They need help with this. Instead of giving them fish, how can I create fishermen? How can we learn how to work together to get this economy moving? You know what I mean? So it's happening. It's all, motion to action is what it is. And I really wish I could be there, you know what I mean, for the event you having. But, I commune with myself because I can't lie. I'm in Texas. I got the money to fly there, and I got a couple cousins there. But I'm using that money to do the things that I'm talking about. I've at the very least been inspired to act and do the things that I know I need to do. So that's what's up, man.
We'll be out there eventually anyway. So we've done a couple of presentations in Dallas and Houston and so forth. We'll be back. So And then at the same time, these kinds of observances, these ancestral observances, they need to be duplicated all around the country. So it should just be people having a secular, quote-unquote, nationalist holiday, Kwanzaa, around Christmas and New Year's. We need to have our own ancestral religious practices that are rooted in our own culture and real.
Absolutely.
All across the country. So that's just part of the process. You'll probably be a hub for that kind of activity where you are.
That's what's up. But thanks, I'm at work. I'm not going to push any further on what I got to say. I guess we can move to the next call. Peace, brother.
Okay, may I say, we appreciate that call. And so, in fact, that's a good point the brother made with regard to when we were talking about the way the Nsamanfo will show themselves, and they have been giving those clues ever since we were children. So the two major Achinebois, the Awusidae, the crow, and the Esunu, the elephant, two major, symbols of the, Asona Abusia. And he had the symbol from his great-grandmother sitting right in the house the whole time, yelling, hey, this is Asona. So when you came to that information, once a person would come to the information, they would realize that the Nsamanfo was sitting right there the whole time, next to them the whole time. Those crows were being sent the whole time. When you look over the course of your life, or even just recently over the past few years and so forth, you will see that you've been put in position, coming in contact with individuals or groups or information or symbols or whatever it is that are constant and keep showing up. And then when you investigate them, you've already taken note of them mentally and spiritually. And of course, in a previous, life, you were already engaged in these processes, so it's in your ancestral memory. So this is just a trigger. Once you start to investigate, you will find that these things link together and they're connected to specific clans and specific energy complexes that are specifically related to you. And of course, there's no happenstance or coincidence. You are naturally moved to connect and learn about these things because this is who you are. And that happens with all of our people in some capacity, young and old. All right. Okay, before we get back to the phone line, we just want to say also on the internet version of the broadcast, if you're just listening to your computer, it cuts off in about 6 minutes. But if you get on the phone line before 11:30, then you'll be able to listen beyond 11:30. But it will cut off online at 11:30, so you have about 6 minutes. The phone number, and we probably won't go too much further beyond 11:30, but the phone number is 657-383-0635, 657-383-0635. You have about 5 minutes and 40 seconds to call in to get on the phone line. All right. So again, before we get on that, we saw that post right there, and made our safe for putting that post in the chat room. Somebody posted the information for the Afuraitkaitnut network group that we have, Afuraitkai-Afuraitkai.ning.com. You can join that. That's our private network, similar to Facebook. It's a private, separate network that we pay for, where people are studying the same information, forming ancestral religion study groups around the country and so forth, and posting information, posting blogs, posting videos, posting discussions, and all that kind of stuff. So you can join that and create a profile and interact with individuals about studying the same thing. So again, for the Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival, October 17th, Washington, D.C., 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you would like to be a vendor, please contact us as soon as possible. We have about 6 spaces left. We provide the tables, a 6-foot table, and then 2 chairs. The vending fee is $25. You can make that donation. When you go to the Hoodoo Mayn page, when you see the donation button, you can just make the $25 vending payment. Just put a note that says vending fee, and send us your information, of course. Email us. The email address is right there on the page, the Hoodoo Mayn page. And of course, the tables are first come, first served. So send us that information. And then with regard to the Hoodoo Mayn journal that we will give out to everyone who comes to the event, everybody who comes through the door, it's a free journal, free book, have information about ancestral culture, religion, hoodoo, as well as natural health and so forth. We'll have a list of the vendors and so forth inside of the journal. But then those who would like, if you like to advertise in the journal, a 1/4 page, $25, 1/2 page is $35, full page ad is $50. And of course, this will get to thousands of our people exponentially. Full color book, full color journal that we will be publishing and passing out. So, and we need to do that as soon as possible. So send us your JPEG file. You can make the payment on the Hoodoo Mayn page. There's a button for the 25, 35, or 50, depending on what size ad you want. Simply email us a JPEG file of your business, organization, institution, and we can get that going immediately. We have to get it done as soon as possible, again, because we are doing the printing. We print on demand, so we have to know how much ink is up to order, and we have to also make sure we take account for possible delays, just in case there are delays in shipping of the ink. We can't put ourselves in a position that, there's some delay in shipping ink or something else, and then we don't have on the day of the event. We have to get them done as soon as possible. Plus, we have to write some of the information. We have to get some information from some of the other vendors as they're coming on, and then information about a couple of the presenters, and put that information together. So we have to get the ad together as soon as possible. So if you would like to place your business, organization, or institution in the journal, that's a way to support the work that we are doing. Of course, all of our ebooks, as we said earlier, 16 books are free downloads from the website. But then we also have the softcover versions we sell. That's the way we generate funds to do what we do. But all of our presentations, when we go out of town, go to different states, we do not charge an admissions fee, and we don't charge a speaker's fee when people bring us out to their city. We don't charge somebody $1,000 to come speak. We don't charge a speaker's fee, and we do not charge our people an admissions fee to come in and hear us speak. That's the way we operate, based on our ancestral culture. So the way we keep these things going and operant is through our softcover publications, as well as to be able to put this event on and cover the venue and cover even assisting a couple of people who needed some assistance, potential speakers to come out to cover their travel expense and a portion of their travel expense coming from different states to share with us and so forth and empower the community. So when you get a personal ad or a business ad and so forth, you're assisting us to get the journals out, get them printed, and cover all these expenses. So whether it's your business, organization, or institution, or if you just like to take out a personal ad, just putting some positive words that will connect with the people who get the journal and take those journals home and share them with, their children and share them with their family members and so forth. This is not just only a souvenir journal. There will be articles in the journal, information about natural health, information about hoodoo and so forth. It's a book, it's something to be studied and learned from. So it's not just a souvenir journal with a bunch of ads. It's both business, but also with education. So we appreciate that. So see some more links in the questions in the chat room. So just give me a second. We want to go through those. Okay, there was one question. How do we know that the day we call Awusidae is not really, say, for example, Yauda? Is there a certain constellation of energy, something we can measure to determine this? So what determines the days is the position of the planet, for example, at the first hours of sunrise. So, for example, the planet governing the first hour of sunrise on Tuesday is so-called Mars. We call Benada or Benna. Abena, so it's called Benada or Abenada, the day da of the deity Benna, and Abena, who is Heruga, who is in ancient Kemet. The day of the Yao, the deity Yao, which is the title of Heru, the deity Yao, or Yao Da, the day Da of the deity Yao. That's also the name of the planet as well. It's so-called Jupiter. That's the planet that governs the first hour of sunrise. So that same 7-day cycle that's been constant, that's one of the things that has been constant for thousands of years. It was not begun by the whites and their offspring. Our people who migrated from ancient Kemet up into the so-called Near East, into the region of Kanana, later called Canaan and so forth, and into ancient Sumer, later called Babylon and everything else. It was our people who brought these systems and practices into these regions, worshiping the same deities by the same names, engaged in the same ritual practice. So you see some of these reliefs and so forth in Kanana, for example. If you look at them, you wouldn't know the difference between that relief and a relief from ancient Kemet. You would think it was a deity from ancient Kemet that's standing sideways with the same poses, wearing similar clothing and so forth, engaged in the same, motifs, ritual practices in these motifs. In the same fashion, that 7-day week, our people, when they established that in the same divinities that govern the 7 days, according to ancient times, pre-European invasion, before the Assyrians invaded and so forth, before the whites, who would later be called Akkadians, but even before they invaded, Akkada was the name of the area and so forth. So the whites and their offspring just appropriated that name. But even before they got there, our people were already utilizing that 7-day week. It is based on the solar, lunar, and planetary bodies that move in a specific cycle, a 7-day cycle. In addition to that, when you look in our biology, what is called by the whites and their offspring chronobiology, in that field, there's a cycle of circadian rhythm called the circa septon cycle, meaning about 7 days. So every 7 days there's a renewal of processes physiologically within the body, and it's in alignment with the 7-day week. So we've always had that connection. This is why in our Akan culture, our whole calendar and our whole culture revolves around that superstructure of the 7 days. Also called the, Na Medeson, or the days 7 that were created by Yonkumpon and Yonkumson and so forth. All right, so there was another question. Will we be learning about how to perform some of our Hoodoo Mayn rituals at the event? Yes, so we'll be talking about not only Hoodoo in the sense of our ancestrally inherited culture and our ancestral inheritance and so forth, but we'll be talking about Hoodoo ritual as well, and we will be announcing, the confirmed speakers, a couple more people coming forward. We'll be talking about ritual medicine as well, roots and so forth, and some people selling natural roots, herbs, healing roots, herbs, and plant life and so forth. So we're going to get into that. We just have to confirm that, and part of the process is also a couple of those individuals, we have to help to cover some of their travel expense. And again, when we deal with the journal as well, when people take out ads that will help for the publication of the journal, also to help cover these expenses, to help bring our speakers out, because of course, the entire event is free. All the workshops and so forth are free as well, so we don't charge for any of that. If you come to the event, there'll be you have access to purchase live raw food and so forth from live raw food specialists. But then we also have the various vendors, shea butter and cocoa butter and natural soaps and books and different things. But then you also have people selling natural herbs and so forth, as well as handmade clothing and different things. So you can come in and out like a shopping mall, but at the same time, we'll have our program, our itinerary, which we will post on the event page, and you'll see the entire itinerary for the whole day, and that includes the various speakers and those talking about ritual and so forth. So yeah. And we want to say, Yedase, we thank everyone who has been sharing the information. Please share the page, the Hoodoo Mayn page. Our vendors are limited, so if you want to get in, it's only about 6 spaces left, as we said earlier. But as far as the ads, in the book, that's not limited per se. Of course, we can't have like 1,000. We would have to go much larger, but there's not a limit to that. So you can share that information. You can share the page with regard to the journal that we're publishing, and share it with other Afuraitkaitnut people. So if they would like to bring their businesses, organizations, and institutions, whether you have an educational institution or you teach, martial arts, or you have a girls program or rites of passage program for girls or boys, no matter what it is, no matter what you're doing, if you hand make, clothing or soaps or whatever it is, if you're someone who can't make it to the event, but you'd like to contribute to the event, but then you also have a business, organization, or institution, or you'd like to make a personal ad, you can get your information in there, and then those thousands of people exponentially who get their hands on the journal will be able to see your business no matter where you are, whether you're here in this country or even outside of the country. You can still place, ads, and people can connect with you online and so forth. So that way we can get this Akan economic development model operant in that fashion as well. We already have people who come on the show on a weekly basis to talk about their businesses. This is a way to have a large directory of Afuraitkaitnut businesses, organizations, and institutions, kind of like a, Yelp, so to speak, or Yellow Pages online, where if you're looking for restaurants, if you're looking for, construction, if you're looking for plumbing, if you're looking for whatever you're looking for, education or art or natural foods or natural hairstylists, whatever it is, you'll have a directory of Afuraitkaitnut businesses right there for you, all in one place. So, again, I'll say for the people who've been sharing it, please continue to share that information. Okay, we want to make sure we didn't miss anybody else's comment in the chat room. I think that these others were just comments, but were not questions. So just give me a second. There was one question about learning about your animal totem. So if you look we did a broadcast, Aboa Nkwa. So when you look at that, you go to our Aboa Nkwa page on our website, we talk about animal totems, but then we also have a broadcast where we expect a large percentage of that broadcast dealing with animal totems. So Aboa, A-B-O-A, and Nkwa, N-K-W-A. It says Ritual Movement for Health and Wellness. So that particular page, on that page, it talks about our Aboa Nkwa process, but then we also deal with animal totems in detail because that's part of the ritual process, the ritual exercise, ritual movement for health and wellness. So check that page out, and then you'll see the link to the video of our Blog Talk Radio broadcast where we went into detail about that. And about finding out the animal totems associated with your clan, which is through ancestral shrine communication and so forth. Okay, so looks like that was the last comment. So again, Yedase, we thank you for tuning in to the broadcast. We will be back on our regular schedule tomorrow, Joda, Monday night. And again, we're trying to get those ads in as soon as possible. So just send us your email, send us the email with your JPEG. And again, if you want to be a vendor, connect with us on the Hoodoo Mayn page. Ojirafo.com, O-D-W-I-R-A-F as in free, O.com/Hoodoo, capital H, Hoodoo, H-O-O-D-O-O, _ capital M-A-Y-N, Hoodoo Mayn.html. And that's talking about Hoodoo Nation. So, Yedase, for tuning into this special broadcast. We will connect with you tomorrow. If you have any questions, please hit us up on Facebook. or Twitter. We're Ojirafo on Twitter, Ojirafo on Instagram, Ojirafo on YouTube. You can connect with us at Kwesi Akan or Ojirafo or Afurakai on Facebook. And then, of course, you can follow us on Blog Talk Radio as well. So when you click the follow button, then anytime we send out a mass email updating you on everything, then you'll receive it. You'll be part of that list. So again, Yerase, we thank you for tuning in, and Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again. What's up?
Sprint presents Lie Detector. Kyle and Audrey have been hooked up to a lie detector. Let's see who's telling the truth and who's lying.
I have iPhone Forever from Sprint, so I never have to wait to get the newest iPhone.
I don't have iPhone Forever from Sprint, so it's 15 months until I can upgrade to the new iPhone 6S. But I don't mind waiting. And I'm not jealous of your new iPhone either. Honestly, I'm not lying.
Get the fire extinguisher!
On second thought, can I just switch to Sprint?
iPhone Forever from Sprint. Our best deal ever. $15 a month includes an iPhone 6S and a new iPhone every year forever. And we'll pay off every dime of your old phone or contract so you can switch.
Offer not available everywhere. Includes 22-month lease, no security deposit, excludes taxes, subject to well-qualified credit, new line port, a $36 activation fee. Requires smartphone trade-in, regular $22 a month. iPhone Forever's lease upgrade eligibility does not guarantee monthly payment amount, phone selection, or plan rates. Service is additional charge. Remaining lease payments due if service canceled. Restrictions apply. See Sprint.com.